During all of the clean sections of the song, I'm using the middle pickup, which is a single coil, and that's how we get the sparkle from the tone. When you have arrangements that are as stripped down as this, it's important that you play with a lot of precision so that you don't have any extra string noises or funny notes happening. During the next segment, watch for me making a quick switch over to the bridge pickup, because that's what'll sound better as we kick on the overdrive to start building the song as we lead into the solo. I am definitely going to show you a little bit more about how I make that crazy sound when the song is over. So that's my playthrough for From the Inside Out and the tone I made for the Helix. Now this tone is made for playing live. It's been tweaked for a band context, and you shouldn't have any problem fitting it in with your group as well. So to start off with the clean tone, I noted I used the single coil pickup for all of the clean parts. It has the most chime. It sounds really great. And this is what that intro lick kind of sounds like in isolation. And I just sort of faded off at the end, and that's where the vocals would come in as I'm fading off that last note. Now you probably heard a little bit of modulation and delay on there. It's using an analog modulated delay, so there's no chorus or flanger or traditional modulation effect on there. It's just from the delay. And the delay is turned up fairly high, but that's kind of what you need if you want the delay to be an integral part of the sound in a band setting. Sometimes you just want to use delay as a tiny bit of flavor, in which case you'll usually keep the mix fairly low. But in this case, where the delay is part of the signature sound, it needs to be turned a little bit higher. Now I will show you off a little bit of that transition from clean to dirty. So a couple of things are going to happen. There's going to be some clean strummed chords that happen. I'm only using 3-note chords to retain clarity. Then as it does a 2-measure build, I'm going to switch to the bridge pickup but stay on the clean sound, and that will start to build the energy of the sound without going into full overdrive. And after that 2-measure build on the bridge pickup with the clean sound, I will kick on the overdrive and you'll get to hear the full dirty sound. Anyway, that's what that sounds like. So you may have noticed that during the dirty part, every chord I'm playing really is just a 2-note chord. And I do that because when you're playing with this much distortion, and also with the size of an ensemble that I play with, there's usually at least 6 musicians on stage at the same time, sometimes more. If you play more than 2 notes, you can really kind of create a muddy sound for yourself that won't sound good, but it also is going to muddy up the mix of the entire group. So when I kick on a lot of distortion in this type of setting, I usually like to keep it down to just 2-note chords, sometimes 3-note chords, but I really like to keep it simple, which gives room for all the other musicians to also find a space within the mix. Now for the guitar solo, it ends with kind of a really crazy sounding note, and I said that I would show off a little bit of what that sounds like. So I'm just going to play like the last bar of the guitar solo that builds into that crazy sounding note so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. And then I just fade it off at the end. Now the thing is, that is an infinite sound. It goes on forever. I pulled back on the volume pedal so that the sound would go away, but if I roll the volume pedal back up, It's still there, it's still going, and it's just getting crazier and crazier sounding. So one of the keys is fade out before it gets crazy sounding. But I make that sound with a combination of a rotary speaker, a Leslie type of effect, and a delay set with a really high feedback. And that's where you kind of get that infinite sound from. Now the sound does go forever. And an important thing to remember is turn that thing off before you fade back in to play the next section of the song, because it will still be going. So I'm going to turn it off. Now the next thing that I want to mention is, you notice as it was getting crazier and crazier, it was starting to click and pop. The delay I'm using is a tape delay simulation, which adds noise of its own, just because it's supposed to be like analog tape, which always adds little bits of noise to it. But additionally, you want to make sure that you don't kick it on as you're picking the note, because when you pick a note, there's always that initial pick attack, which can sound like a click. You don't want that to be in your loop. So what I do is I pick the note, and after the pick attack is gone, then I kick on the effect. So I'll show you the difference here. So here's the way I would play it: pick and turn on, and that would sound like this. Fade off the volume there. So you see, that's a very clean, kind of wacky, repeating type of sound. But watch what happens if I kick it on as I pick the note. So you hear it starts to get that clicking kind of sound on it. So that is my guitar sound for From the Inside Out. I hope that all of you like it. And if you're interested, head over to my store and you can purchase this patch. You can see what other patches I have available. I have definitely a range of things available for praise and worship as well as contemporary music. So come on over to my store. The link is in the description, and see if there's anything you need. So long.